Welcome to Blake Street Banter, where one of us knows what the word banter means. The other two are just along for the ride. Noah, say what's up.
What up? Happy to be here.
Yeah. And we are joined by DNVR's own Christian. I meant to ask you this before we got on. How do you say your last name?
Saez. You were starting it. You sounded like you were right on track.
I got in the middle of it. Saez, Christian Saez of DNVR. Thanks for hanging out with us. How you doing, big dog?
Good, man. I'm happy to be here. Love getting some Rockies news to talk about.
Right. Let's just end our night because I know you started your day with a little Rockies talk on your own pod. And so now we get to end the night with it. So, like, there's an off day for the Rockies, but there's not an off day for the Rockies. Like, we can always find something to talk about, right?
Yeah, especially for us. Like, it's summer, there's never an off day for us.
No, not even when we might need one. But yeah, we are going, we are grinding, we are doing our thing. But before we get into all of that, or one of our sponsorships, right? Just want to give a brief shout out to our new partner, Sports Spider. Guys, if you're tired of searching multiple websites for sports news, sportspider.com has you covered. They collect the latest articles, videos, and podcasts from around the web and organize them by your favorite teams. If you want to stay up to date as possible on your Colorado Rockies or how terrible Bo Nix is, hit that link in the description to check out sportspider.com. Spider spelled with a Y. Bo Nix, he's a flop. Be prepared for it, Noah.
He's an open Bo Nix hater, Christian.
Wow, this is news to me. I was going to say.
I'm up in Michigan. Go Lions, all blue. So, like, ooh, the Bo Nix, and I just like picking on the Broncos.
I mean, I don't know if your Michigan blue guy is doing too hot to start either. So
yeah,
who?
JJ?
Oh no, not Michigan gold and blue. No, I'm go big red all the way through. Michigan Honolulu blue. The Detroit Honolulu blue. No,
gotcha.
We can dog on Michigan all over.
Okay, yeah, good. We agree on that at least.
Yeah, it does suck when players go out for the season before they can even make their debut. Like I do feel for JJ a little bit in that sense, but
yeah. I mean, I like as a competitor, you're like, you wish you at least got to beat him a couple times, in the coming years.
Exactly. But whatever, that's football. That's for you guys. What, we got 3 weeks. You're probably starting to prepare for your fantasy draft and all that. I know I am. But Christian, tell us a little bit about you, about how you got started with where you are out now at DNVR. Just kind of give us all a little bit of background of you.
So funny story, actually. I started out covering the Spokane Indians in Spokane. That was kind of my first job out of college, was as the PA announcer for the Spokane Indians. And it was just one of those, like, graduate college, what can I do after? Got involved with the Indians, and then kind of made the transition into the television world with SWX TV. It's like the NBC station in Spokane, and they cover the Indians as one of their teams. So that was back when the Indians were with the Texas Rangers. And so I kind of had no affiliation to the Rockies back then when I was in Spokane. And then the year that I left Spokane to move here, because my wife initially got a job at DNVR as their social media manager, that was the year the Rockies kind of took over the Spokane Indians. So we moved over here to Denver. She's from the Denver area. I'm originally from Seattle. And she kind of worked her way up into the corporate world at DNVR in All City. And I just was kind of around. I was been, on the DNVR Rockies podcast plenty of times as a guest over the years with Patrick and then Susie. And then once Susie said she was leaving, about a month ago, it was a perfect opportunity for me to step in. So yeah, I'm pumped. I grew up getting to watch NL West baseball. My family are diehard Giants fans, so I kind of grew up in that world. And so getting to cover the Rockies here has been just a dream come true, man. They're my adopted team, and here we are.
And here we are. Yeah, that's full circle. It's weird how the world works. I love how it just kind of all comes full circle somewhere, somehow, like starting with the Spokane Indians before they were even part of this. And now here you are as they become part of it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Damn Grill. Maybe have your draft party at the Damn Grill. I mean, if you want to sponsor us, we'll promote that a little bit for you if you want, Damn Grill.
Yes, sir.
But let's talk Rocks. We got that. Got to know a little bit. You guys are going to hang out in the booth a little bit. You got one more weekend, Noah. Get to celebrate Helton, number 17, this weekend, and then you get to go be your kind of future self, prepare for your future self in a way. Go back to school and college and stuff. But you're still going to be on the pod. You're going to be doing this, just not in the press booth coverage there.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, man. Going back and being a student again. It feels like, I've been on vacation this whole time. It's
right.
weird.
like working vacation, like literally living the dream, just becoming best friends with Ryan McMahon, just like all the normal stuff that would come up, right?
Jake Cave. That's Jake Cave.
Jake Cave, man of the people, right?
I've been the new guy the whole time, and then Christian walks in like a lost puppy, and I had to give him the tour down to the clubhouse.
I seriously felt like that. Did Noah tell you that I ended up accidentally in the Braves press conference one time after a game because I had my head down in a tweet after the game was ended, and Kevin, I don't know what his last name is, but he's like a writer with Just Baseball, and he was in front of me, and I was like, I'm just following him, like head down in my phone, I'm just following his shirt. Next thing I know, I look up and I'm in the Braves press conference. They've scanned me in and everything, and I'm looking around like, wait a minute, this isn't the Rockies place. I'm running over to the press conference. Bud Black's already in there, so yeah, I needed Noah as my tour guide to keep me straight.
Good first impression there. Love that.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it's a fun story to tell. That's awesome. All right, so there was some news last night. It's so frustrating being on the Eastern time zone. You guys are kind of lucky in the mountain. I go to bed. It's 10:30, 11. I'm watching the Topes, the Grizzlies, and I fall asleep. It's like, all right, nothing's gonna happen. I wake up. I must have missed it by like 5 minutes to Elias Diaz being outrighted. I think that's the right term. I got called out for it a little bit earlier, but I think he was outrighted. So he's gone. I think he has until 11 o'clock tonight.
Tomorrow.
So he's got 2 full days to kind of decide what to do, where he's going to go with it. But this is kind of what I know me and Noah and Tyler, the whole BSB crew, have kind of hoped for to happen after the trade deadline. Like it's clear that there was no value in trading Diaz at the deadline, but he was DFA'd at the exact time that we thought he would, because the rookie status, the 45-day mark, is today. So when Romo shows up tomorrow at the end of the season, he still has 1 day before he loses that rookie eligibility. So when Romo shows up in purple next year, he's still a rookie, which is possibility for compensation pick if he wins the rookie of the year and all that kind of stuff. So that's that timeline, right? So we're getting exactly what we all want as fans. But is this what we want as fans? Like, I know you've seen the X, I know you've seen the Twitter, both of you have been all around it, and like days like this are why I love Twitter, and it's a riot. Rockies discourse is back because of days like this. But I mean, Christian, like, I know you talked about it on your own pod earlier today, so everybody go listen to the DNVR pod on that, but like maybe summarize kind of how are you taking the Diaz outrightedness today, and how you kind of understanding all of that.
Yeah. So I think the best way that, I like to look at it right now is it's the right move that needed to be made, just maybe a year and a half, 2 years too late. And I think that's the tone that I've been hearing from a lot of other fans as well. Like you said, on social media, you're hearing the commentary, talking to other members of the media. I think the consensus is that this happened, a year too late. And I was pretty frustrated that they weren't able to get rid of, Stallings or Diaz at the trade deadline this year. Turns out in some of those conversations, it looks like they didn't have any takers for either of them, or at least quality takers. But I'm not someone who likes to live in the past too much. So yes, would I have loved for them to have gotten value out of Diaz last year when he was in a career year? Absolutely. But that didn't happen. Hindsight's 2020. So where we are right now today, I do think this was the necessary move for some points that you just made about Drew Romo, and also just for the future of the franchise. Elias Diaz and Jacob Stallings just don't fit the future of what the Rockies are going to be, and hopefully be when they make a run to it in what they expect to be 2026. That's to be determined. But Diaz isn't a part of that in where they're planning right now. So you've got to start making, albeit some challenging decisions or painful decisions at times like this, to let go of players that the fans love in order to bring in new guys that hopefully can fill that spot in a very meaningful way. So a necessary move, unfortunate in the timing of it, but they've got to start moving forward. Now is better than never.
Yeah, and the reality of it is Diaz can now, he's free to, if he wants to sign with a contender, if he's offered a contract, he can go compete in the postseason. And Aaron, I mean, we're assuming it's got to be Romo, right? You'd be shocked if it wasn't.
So a little update on all that, right? So Romo was scratched from the Albuquerque Isotopes lineup this evening, but he has been seen catching in between pitches. So, like, why would he be late scratch? But obviously, he's not hurt enough if he's catching. All signs say everything's fine, and he's going to get on the plane tomorrow morning.
Get the promotion post ready.
What's that?
Get the promotion post ready.
Right. I mean, we got it ready.
Get Mike on it.
We have a graphic as well. Yeah, we're ready to press send.
And you could maybe see a world where Nolan Jones is ready to come up and Hunter Goodman's the backup for Stallings. But with the late scratch of Romo, everything's kind of screeching to, all right, we're going to see Romo tomorrow in purple. He won't play. Don't expect him to play, just like we didn't expect Jordan Beck to play when he got his call back last week sometime. But yeah. So, I mean, what are you thinking, Noah? How are we feeling about the Diaz?
I mean, it's the right move. He wasn't going to be a Rocky next year. That just didn't make sense for where the franchise is. And the only question it raises for me, and I'm interested in your guys' input on it, is now the Rockies will have 3 catchers at the big league level in Stallings, Romo, and Goodman can play catcher. I'm curious, there's exactly 40 games left in the season. What do you guys think the start split percentage will be amongst all of them? Because I mean, Goodman might just be here and there, but I hope it's Romo getting the majority of the reps, even though Stallings has been really productive. But either one of you, I'm just curious.
It's a great question.
It is a great question. And I was going to say, I mean, I agree with you completely. If it's me running the Rockies, I'm playing Romo as much as I can. You give him his days off and, that kind of thing. But I mean, look, like this is I've said it on my podcast, like this is a perfect opportunity right now for the Rockies because we don't know what next season is going to look like. I'm not assuming that they're going to be a competitive team, in the playoff race, but we really don't know. And the way the Rockies front office expects kind of greatness every single year, at least they expect that their team's going to be able to compete like that. I would imagine they probably think that. But where you are right now, like, for a fact, your team is not making the playoffs this year. You're not putting together a winning season. So take advantage of that and use someone like Drew Romo to use seasons like this to get guys like Drew Romo the reps that they need at the big league level and allow them to kind of make mistakes, to be young and to just get that experience in a very low pressure environment. I don't know if they're going to do that, but that would definitely be my hope because I think that is the best case scenario for where the Rockies are headed, in getting the most out of what they've got this year.
Yes, agreed. But it's Bud Black, and it's we all love Jay Cave. He is the man of the people. He's great, and any Rockies fans with an understanding of baseball knows that Jay Cave should not be starting 80% of the games in the last 2 months that he has been, right? It should be a Beck, it should be a Goodman, it should be a Tolia, it should be anybody else but Jay Cave out in the outfield, right? So we know Bud likes these veterans to kind of guide the crew. And so you have these Jacob Stallings kind of guiding this young pitching staff that we're probably going to talk about later. Like, I can just see a world where Buddy wants Jacob Stallings paired with Tanner Gordon. He wants Jacob Stallings paired with Bradley Blaylock, like young guy, veteran catcher, right? Like That's just the vibe, right? But we also hear all these great things that Drew Romo, study of the game, learns constantly, always being annoying and asking questions. I remember Kyle Freeland talking about Drew Romo. It was just like, he was just here the whole time. And it was just kind of like peck with all the questions, which is what you want out of your future star catcher, right? But like, is Buddy going to do the old veteran Buddy thing? Or is he going to do the Buddy thing where it's like, all right, Tovar, you're part of the future. You're going to play all the time. Doyle, you're part of the future. You're going to play all the time. Jordan Beck, welcome, kid. You're going to get out there. You're going to play all the time. Like, there's these, but he didn't do that with Goodman. He didn't do that with Tolia or Montero. So like, there's definitely some strings, I feel, in my opinion, nothing can confirm any of that, but I think there's some strings being pulled by Billy or by Mr. Dick Monfort that is saying, hey, you need to play this guy because he was drafted in the first 3 rounds. We put a lot of money in. We need that investment to play out. I think Drew Romo falls into that where it's all right. He is our catcher of the future. You have to play him, Buddy. You can't do that Buddy thing with the veteran thing. I believe there is some of that being pulled. it makes it very interesting. It makes it fun for a fun conversation because, like you said, he should be getting all the plays, but there is no guarantee that Drew Romo is getting all the starts.
Oh, totally.
And Aaron, real quick, I mean, obviously we know all about Drew Romo because we cover the minor leagues excessively at Blake Street Banner, but tell the people a little bit more. You know, they might not know all about Drew Romo. What makes him the next franchise
Did we
star?
not know about Drew Romo? Did we not listen to our top 40 podcast where I went off for five minutes about Drew Romo being the goddamn stud?
Give him a 30-second version.
Drew Romo has produced absolutely everywhere. I think he took his bumps and bruises last year in Hartford. Terrible May and June, was pretty much hitless, and then he absolutely raked July, August, September. Right? He showed that he's been pretty league average in the PCL. He gets on base. Even though he's not walking, there is one thing that I'm a little concerned about is like his power stroke has been pretty non-existent the last month or so down in it, but he's an average bat with a above average glove behind the plate. He's got good pickoffs. I love watching Jerry Weinstein doing all the catching breakdowns on Twitter, and like he promotes Drew Romo a lot with all that. But I mean, season stats, you're looking at Drew Romo as an 837 OPS, which is what you would think was pretty low for the PCL, which it is. The big thing is like it's just no walks. 16 walks in his 370 plate appearances. So whatever.
He'll fit right in.
Huh?
He'll fit right in the lineup.
Right. He's not striking out as much as the rest of the group. 66 strikeouts with 370 plate appearances. But even in that time, the last 28 days, Brody has 2 home runs. He has 10 home runs on the season. So the power and walk thing isn't quite there, but the rest of the game is. He's not striking out. He can hit for average. He's finding a way on. He can control the run game. He can help with the pitching staff. So everything you hear about Drew Romo is true, but don't expect him to come barreling down the runway and lights out as the number 1 catcher in Rockies history in the first month. Like that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and I want to compare it to like, another prospect that we saw recently come into a pretty solidified spot for the Rockies in Michael Toglia. Because Michael Toglia, you can ask anyone. I mean, Noah's heard it in the press conferences with Bud Black plenty of times. Tolia's got plenty of things to work on. And Bud Black's been very, very adamant about, Toglia is not there yet. Yes, he's got really good aspects of his game, and he's got enough to kind of solidify himself as our guy at first base defensively. He's got the power, but he doesn't have the ability to get on base, and he doesn't have the average. I mean, I think he was hitting just like a week ago, he was hitting like 183 with runners in scoring position or something like that. And so there are still parts of Michael Tolia's game that are not developed to the level that he needs to be by 2026 when the Rockies are hopefully making a run at the playoffs. I think this is similar to Toglia. If Drew Romo comes up and has kind of the start that we expect him to have, where that some parts of his game are good, some parts of his game need to be developed, this is when you want to be doing that. I think Bud Black knows that, even though he might be stubborn in the way he likes to approach things from a veteran standpoint. But I do think he's starting to see that pan out with Toglia, who is improving his average, his on-base percentage. We've seen that even against the Diamondbacks in this last series. I think as Bud Black sees that progress with Toglia, it might give him more confidence to kind of give that rein and that leash to guys like Drew Romo or Jordan Beck, who just need more reps.
Yeah, to your point, Tolia's average, I think he's on a 6 or 7 game hitting streak right now, and his average is up to 218, which it's not great, but it's a whole lot better than 201 or $195, which it was just a couple of weeks ago. I think it's no different than with Romo right now. It might not be any different than with Tovar. When he got called up, he just played in September, first career homer off of Kershaw, and then the next year made great improvements, and then this year the dude's balling out. That's the kind of projection that the Rockies want to have. And Aaron, you've talked a lot about that. You kind of think that that's a shift that they've just started to make with their prospects.
They like to sprinkle the prospects in late just to give them a taste of the dugout, the vibe, the major league culture, and kind of figure it out with that. And that's what this feels like. It's just, if you just don't know, right? Like,
well, what I wish, I wish the roster is still expanded to 40 for September.
We only get 28.
it would really benefit the Rockies in a year like this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. I don't understand why the players union did 28 for 40, but it's fun discourse. I mean, the question was predict how many games. So you said what, 40 games left?
Yes.
So how many games does over under 22 and a half Romo starts?
I would go under, but I was going to set the line at 20. So close.
I'm staying with Noah. I'd probably go under, just knowing what the Rockies historically have done. If they want to prove me wrong, I'm here for it. But I don't think they're going to do it.
That's so funny because I'm taking the over. Like I think they are going to do it. I feel like I was the more negative Nancy on that.
They'll get 23 games out of it,
right? Yeah. Somebody mark this. Somebody who's listening, damn Grill, go ahead and make this mark this for me so we can sponsor the over under of Drew Romo starts there. But it's going to be interesting. So Christian, what are the options for Diaz going forward?
Yeah. So Diaz is in an interesting spot right now because technically he hasn't been officially waived, in a definitive way to where he can't, like he's been completely sent down. He will never be with the Rockies again. I mean, there is still a chance that if no one picks him up, he has some options, albeit limited options. And the Rockies still have some options. Now, I do think this is a sign showing that the Rockies are obviously ready to move on from Elias Diaz. So I don't see a world in which he continues to play for the Rockies. Some people on Twitter were saying, like, what if he doesn't get picked up? Is he just going to keep playing for the Rockies? I don't think that we're going to see that. I guess they could surprise me. But I think realistically, what we will see is either he's going to get picked up by a team here, in the next few hours, a team like the Astros, the Diamondbacks were another team. The Mariners even could have been a team. Teams that are current contenders now that say, you know what, we're willing to eat that $1.5 million salary that is remaining in his contract so that we can have a very competent and high upside potential backup catcher to be a good fill-in for, I don't know, I was using the Mariners as an example, like a Cal Raleigh, with in Seattle. And so I think there is a market for him. It's just a matter of our teams willing to kind of take that risk financially, even though it's not that much money. But if they don't end up picking that up, then there's an opportunity for him to become a free agent because of his service time. And I think it's 5 years in the big leagues that he's had. And the issue with him becoming a free agent is then he would forfeit the remainder of his contract. Does he want to give up that $1.5 million to become a free agent? He's 33 years old. Does he think that he can get something out of being a free agent that's more than that $1.5 million? Personally, I don't think he would. So then it puts kind of the ball in the Rockies' boat where they say, we're going to have to send him down to the minors and kind of, open up that roster spot in a more challenging way. Those are the options. Now, I really don't know. I'm not in the front office, so I don't know which route they're going to have to end up taking. But I think it's a tough spot. I just wish, again, I try not to look too much into the past, but I wish they could have gotten anything, even if that prospect was non-existent, a name that no one's heard of, anything for him at the trade deadline to make so much cleaner of a, kind of departure from Diaz. But that's the options they've got right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued to see the effect of the clubhouse without Diaz, because so many segments that they play on the big screen, and we've kind of just gotten to know the players being around the clubhouse so often. Diaz is really like the glue guy that's always happy. I think on the segment on the big board, they say like, who's still trapped in a kid's body, or a kid trapped in an adult's body. It's Diaz, because the dude's always goofing around. And so it'll be interesting to see, we never asked for vibe checks from Bud Black because that's a bad question, but it'll be interesting to see how the clubhouse stays glued together without Elias.
Yeah, he's definitely a crucial part of this team. But look, you're going on 300 losses, over 3 seasons potentially. And I said this when I did one of my podcasts during the trade deadline about kind of disagreeing with the Rockies' decision to not trade Rymack. And look, you can have a player as good as Rymack or as good as Diaz was last year, but if you're still losing 100 games, it doesn't matter how great your clubhouse is. you've got to be building and you've got to be fixing the holes. And Noah uses the idea of like, you got to be checking boxes. Like the Rockies have checked boxes at certain positions in other areas of the field. The catcher spot is a very big unchecked box that they don't have. So clubhouse guy or not, I think the Rockies players and fan base understands, even though we love Diaz and we hate to see him go in the way that it's happening, that's the business of baseball.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely got to be that understanding of it too. The vibes are going to be a little low for a little bit, but it's the understanding of a business, a professional, and the players know what the tea leaves are saying. So
yeah,
I mean, it's true. Like you're missing a good presence, a good guy. So it'll be interesting.
But also to be fair, I mean, you're losing games. Like Noah, you and I've been in the locker rooms after pretty tough losses that have stacked up this season, and I don't care how great of a clubhouse guy Elias Diaz is. The vibes aren't great when you're losing games, and so Diaz or not, the Rockies have some quiet clubhouses after some pretty tough losses to teams that they should be beating. And they're winning actually a good amount of games at home. They're almost 500 at home. And that's just the ones we see. So, I think Rockies players understand, like you just said, Aaron. I think in a best case scenario, I'm praying that Diaz gets picked up by a championship team this year, Astros, Diamondbacks, teams like that.
Yeah.
Because I think that would that would give so much closure to the fans, to the players, even to the front office that probably hated to see, this happen to him in the way that it did. So fingers crossed that he can get on a really solid team and get maybe some playoff games under his belt.
Yeah, definitely hoping for the best, and thank Elias for all he did for the Rockies. Like he brought some fun, he brought some life to it. Like I loved watching him throw the ball behind home plate. Like it was a freaking cannon every single time. It was much fun. Right now, you are right. When you lose 100+ games, changes are going to happen. Just got swept by the D-backs. Exactly. Like this is what should have been happening. This is what should be going. This is what should be being done right now. And let's change the vibe a little bit, okay, Noah?
Yeah.
My question for you, Noah, is who is the next Rockies superstar? So you're looking at all these stud teams that are making these playoffs, and there's got to be a nice little balance between check boxes and the giant ass check that's like, yeah, that's the guy, that's the superstar. Yeah. And like we have a top 12 farm system now. We have 6 guys in the top 100. We have all the potential to have a superstar to help us get there. Royals are doing it with Bobby Witt. Came out of nowhere. There's the superstar. They're now a playoff team a few years later, right? You go look at the Astros superstars down the street, right? The Mariners had Julio Rodriguez. I mean, we don't need to talk about that. Hope he comes back better than ever after his little injury happening. But there's superstars everywhere. Every team needs that superstar. Who is the superstar now, if there is one, and then who will be the next superstar for the Rockies when they make the playoffs in 2026?
Well, I'll give you the answer in, a little tiered response. The superstar right now is supposed to be Chris Bryant. It's not. So the superstar
you just had to do that, huh?
I did.
I was waiting for that.
Get them all fired up.
We're changing the vibes here, Noah.
But the superstar has become Brenton Doyle. I believe Brenton Doyle is the best player on the team. I know a lot of people are Tovey guys. I love Tovar too, but I think Brenton Doyle, just with his speed, that puts him over the top, best defensive center fielder in Rockies history. If we're looking towards the future, well, my favorite guy is Nolan Jones. I hope he wins Comeback Player of the Year next year. But for prospects, I'm going to go with Dollander. And part of that is after watching your interview with him. The dude is a stud and like a great guy. So why not root for him? He's also our second-ranked prospect in the system. And I think he's going to be a guy that the Rockies haven't had this since probably 2018 Freeland. Once a series, you can count on a win when Dollander goes out to the field. And I mean, right now, they don't have that. They have a lot of arms that are contributing. But I'm going to say that Chase Dollander defies Coors Field and becomes a guy that every time he goes to the mound in a series, you're winning at least a ball game.
I'll give you that. Yeah. Okay. I should have prefaced this. So when I say superstar, I mean like top 10, top 15. He can be recognized by a Marlins fan on whatever in the summer. So like, is Brenton Doyle that status right now? Like, is he that guy that is recognized and is taking the team over the top? Like, I
don't think he's recognized just because most baseball fans, I mean, it's not like they don't take the Rockies seriously, but if you're not in the All-Star game, how many eyes are on Rockies games outside of their own fans or the Dodger fans when the Dodgers come here? But I mean, I think the obvious answer would have been Charlie Condon, but I want, Dollander to be a guy where, he was picked however many picks after Paul Skeens, and we've seen what Skeens has turned into. Why can't Dollander go out and do that when he can, that's what I'm rooting for.
Okay. Rhino and Charlie Condon as well. Grant, what up, big dog? Thanks for joining us. All right. Who's the superstar, Christian?
I'm also going to go with Doyle, and not because of his past with the Rockies, but I think where we're shifting into is a place where the world is starting to notice Brenton Doyle a little bit more. I mean, he just won NL Player of the Month for the month of July and went on one of the best months of July in Rockies history. I mean, and also I think in all of Major League Baseball, people were putting him on the same tier, at least in July, as Bobby Witt Jr. And so I think Brenton Doyle, Noah, I totally agree with you. I think he is also one of those players. And I tend to look, to add to what I'm saying, I tend to look at guys who have the vibes, for lack of a better way of putting it. Like, they have the swag and the physicality, the speed, the excitement to play. Look at like guys like Ellie De La Cruz, who is just like so much fun to watch. Bobby Witt Jr., even guys like Jarren Duran, who's going through some weird stuff over in Boston right now. But as a player, like, those guys are so much fun to watch. And I think Brenton Doyle can be that guy because he's so athletic. He's so physical. He just plays with so much intensity. And I think if he keeps his consistency up, he can turn into the Rockies' new version of a Charlie Blackmon, who, even if you didn't, live in Denver or in Colorado and root for the Rockies, you kind of knew who Charlie Blackmon was because he was just associated with the Colorado Rockies. I think if there's the longevity there for Brenton Doyle and the Rockies, I think he will become that kind of captain superstar of the team.
100% agree. I echo everything you just said. I think I need Brenton to do it again next year, right? We could have been having the same exact conversation last year about Nolan Jones, right? Like, he was that superstar and still can be, right? But like, where we are right now in this moment, you guys see it a few years. I was just listening to a podcast about the Tigers and Riley Green. Like, all right, he's great, but he's injured. So what do we do about that? Do we sign him to an extension, or do we just kind of play this out? Do we try to get a team-friendly deal and all that? So like, there's longevity is super important. Like, we see this all the time. So I would say Brenton Doyle is, and I agree with you, Noah, like, Chase Dollander has to be it. The Rockies need a superstar pitcher. Like, you need that guy that you can rely on. And like you said, like, I mean, seeing Chase go on the mound, he has that presence that I'm about to knock you down, right? Yeah, I was thinking of the word aura when he said swag. Yeah. We were giggling, whatever that means. But it's the Chase Dollander vibe check, the aura that he brings to that mound is like, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to shove. And if I can't shove, I'm going to find a way to shove. And a very Kyle Freeland mentality gamer. And I love watching him pitch, even with the weird camera angles that we saw up in the Northwest League. Like, seeing him now with the Hartford in the Eastern League, like, you can actually watch and see his stuff move and see his stuff play. And like, it's all major league ready. It's now just honing it in, doing his thing. So I think he has that it factor to be that guy. Futures game, his name's already known. He came from Tennessee. He's on the Futures game. He's like a number 3 right-hand pitching prospect in all of MLB. So like, people know who he is, which helps, right? And it adds that extra aura to be that superstar. I think the Rockies, kind of like what Rhino said, like, you need these guys to be that old group in 2018, like to just carry the weight, like, and be the dogs that you need that. And so I think I think it is going to be Chase Dollander, but I think the Rockies need it to be Chase Dollander to be the superstar.
I 100% agree with you. And I will add to that, I love the idea of Charlie Condon. I like, the excitement around him. We're watching his BP where, people are getting kind of wrapped around that because the Rockies put, a lot of faith into him as one of as their top draft pick. But he's already getting kind of thrown into one of the most defensively competitive outfields in all of Major League Baseball right now, with if players are playing at their peak in the Rockies system right now. I think that's one of the best outfields defensively in Major League Baseball, at least in the National League. And Condon, I know he can play between third base and outfield. When I was talking to Dave Nichols with the Spokane Indians, he said right now they're shaping him more into the outfield role. But the Rockies don't really need outfield captains like Brenton Doyle. They need pitchers. And so, yeah, I love to see an exciting young outfielder, but we need dudes that can get up on the bump and shove. So I agree with you entirely on that.
Real quick, I just want to stick with Condon. And I mean, you're right, Christian. The picture without moving McMahon, and I love McMahon, so I like the decision to keep him around if this team will be competing in 2026. The vision for Condon's path to the big leagues did not get any clearer, though, when they decided to keep him and lock down that third base spot for a number of years more. And I know, Aaron, you've talked about this with the Rockies insider Patrick Lyons. When do you think we could see Charlie Condon at the big league level? Because MLB.com says 2026, and I would just be surprised because that feels late to me. I think he comes up next year.
Late? You think he's up next year?
I think so. When you draft a guy that was the top hitter in college.
You think he's up next year like a Brenton Doyle or like a Drew Romo?
No. Not till like August, September.
Okay.
Because that's what the Rockies do. They give them a taste.
Yeah. That's what I said on the pod with Patrick. It's go to Jordan Beck. This is exactly what they did with Jordan Beck, right? He got a little taste. He was on the cusp last year, and then spring training hit, and it's like, all right, yeah, you're a dude. You're gonna be thrown in. So that's a year and a half after being drafted. So you're looking at Charlie Condon to be that year and a half, like a full season and a half in the minor leagues before he's getting that major league action. I could see him begin a late September call up, like we see you in our future. But I mean, like what Christian said, this outfield is freaking stacked. Like you are going Jones, Doyle, Beck. Don't forget Yankiel. If Veen's healthy, he can be a production. Yep. He can be a dude. You got Goodman hanging out. Like you're 6 deep already, and that's not even including Sean Bashard. That's not even including Greg Jones. Like you're stacked. So where do you find Charlie Condon playing time? Like let's just run it back 2026, 2025. Do we trade a Ryan McMahon to make room for a Charlie Condon? Because that's what we wanted with Elias Diaz to make room for Drew Romo. Like there's all these. Let's trade Brendan Rodgers so Adele Amador can come in. Like that's a whole nother thing that we have to worry about too. So it's like you have all these question marks to cog up this machine when you see the superstar, and the Rockies don't want to push their superstar to fall and falter. And like we can't be that club, that organization that drafts the number one prospect and calls him up and then he flops on his face. We can't do that. We can't do that here. So there's so many, it's the Rockies. So there's so many other elements into play that you have to be aware of. Like, and it's all hearsay, but it's true. Like the perception matters. And that, I think that plays a part into when we see Charlie Condon. Is it necessary if he's ready, or is it necessary that Rockies and Major League Baseball fans are ready?
Yeah, I think it's going to be that Rockies and Major League Baseball fans are ready and want to see him, and I think there's going to be a lot of push for that. But I agree. I think that you're going to have, they're going to sprinkle him in probably sometime next year into this Rockies lineup to just see, like, hey, what are we getting out of this guy? Is if he's going through the minor league system as quickly as they expect him to, I think there's a chance we see him coming up there. But again, I just don't quite understand. We have this vision in the media, at least, of like where we expect the Rockies to go over the next couple of years to get to become a team that can compete in 2026. And we all know that means pitching, right? Like there's no disagreement on any of us that the Rockies need better pitching and that their defense isn't the problem. Their pitching is the problem. And so Condon, yes, he's exciting. He's fun to watch. He might sell some tickets, but is he going to give you the depth that you need? I mean, you're offensively, are you having to put up 9 runs per game because your pitching staff is giving up 10? That's the issue that I think the Rockies are in right now. And I just don't see them putting a ton of focus on that in their future. So I'm hopeful that, a guy like Condon can get a little bit of playing time in the next year or so, just so we can see, how he competes. But I'm with Noah. Like, I'm looking more at Dollander and Sullivan and some of these other pitching prospects that, like, that's the guys I want to be seeing up here as soon as possible to just get some reps and get to see what their arms are going to look like at a big league level.
Yeah, you said it, as soon as possible. And I think there's been a shift across Major League Baseball where guys used to be drafted and it'd be like throwing a dart that you won't know if it hits the board till 4 years in advance. Now dudes are getting called up 2 years. I mean, Skeens is an outlier. I won't talk about Skeens because he got called up super fast. But even Nolan Arenado got drafted in 2009, didn't debut till 2013, and he was a top 2-round draft pick. So the fact that we're even having this conversation about these young studs is encouraging to me, and I think it helps the Rockies' direction.
And it speaks to where the Rockies franchise is, because they aren't winning games. So they're going to work a lot quicker than a team like the Dodgers, who are contenders right now. Like, why are they going to be moving their prospects up quickly at all? They don't need to. So the Rockies are just in a different place as a franchise, I think.
Right. Yeah. I do want to go back to something you said where it was about the pitching staff, where I think the Rockies are putting a lot of stuff into the pitching staff of the future. Because, I mean, you can look at the arm bar and you got Seth Halverson, you got Jaden Hill ready to go. You got Evan Justice, who has some experience. You got Zach Agnos down below. You got Juan Mejia. You got Angel Sevilla. You got Brody Brecht that was there. Like, those are kind of relievers that are coming to mind. And then you can go 5 or 6 deep with the rotation. Like, I can see Jeff Criswell kind of being a spot starter every once in a while. You got the 3-headed monster that is Palmquist, Dollander, and Sullivan. You got Blake Adams, who's kind of doing his thing. Like, there's, I think, Victor Juarez, you got Gabe Hughes, you got Jackson Cox, you got Vargas, Jody Vargas coming. There's a lot. Bradley Blaylock. They're adding all these guys to, I think, emphasize that, especially from last year's trade deadline where they added 5, 6, 7 starting pitchers. Like, I think the farm is built for, we have quantity. Now let's try to hone in some of this quantity to be ready for that. And you're seeing Bud kind of, I think I'm actually happy how Bud has grown Victor Vodnik, which is a lot for me to say, because I'm kind of anti-Bud Barn usage. But where Victor was to where he is now, fantastic. He eased Anthony Molina into kind of this weird little role here. He's giving him a little bit more high intense minutes. All props to Noah Davis, our dog up there, kind of getting that high leverage stuff and getting that honed in, and like trusting him to go in there and do his thing against, I think it was the Diamondbacks last week. So I think there is a lot of emphasis on this arm stuff, and that's where I think drafting a Charlie Condon to be that next superstar bat is perfect for what this team needs in 2026. I mean, we didn't talk about it, but Charlie Condon at first base.
Yeah.
Why not? Like, if Tolia can't get any better with where he's at, there's really nobody in first base that's blocking him. We love our guy, Grant Levine, but he hasn't really pushed the envelope on that fact. And then there's nothing really there, right? So maybe Charlie Condon's there. And I think Condon's playing outfield in Spokane because that's where they need. Kyle Karras is third base locked down, right? So it's like, I do like what the Rockies have done, and it really does feel like they are setting themselves up for that 2026 push. That's just my pushback on your comment. Yeah.
Well, and I guess my follow-up to that is, can the Rockies get that quantity that you talked about to quality to turn into quality, and that's where that is hard, and I can't speak to that, because I played baseball, but never to that level. So, I can't speak to that from experience, but that's where I want to see a little more emphasis. And I agree with you completely about the Vodnik thing. And I like even the way that Bud Black talks about Vodnik, because Noah, you and I have been in press conferences twice now where Vodnik has blown a game. And we've seen Bud Black defending his young pitcher, but not in like an unhealthy, like I'm defending my own, behind kind of way, but like in a, hey, this guy's young. This is like, we need him to be making these mistakes now and honing that craft a little bit, getting the balls down in the zone instead of leaving 100-mile-an-hour fastballs high and outside. Like those are the things that he is learning from these unfortunate, very frustrating losses. And that's going to hopefully get better and more consistent by 2026. So I want to see more of that from the Rockies, getting the quantity into quality, because you're right. They do have a ton of very high potential prospects. It's just getting them shifted into the big league mindset here moving forward.
And the best way to do that is to continue to call guys up and see what you have, give them a taste, and hope that they shine off the bat. If not, you're able to coach them and help them develop. A move that they made today, the Rockies they optioned Riley Pint to AAA Albuquerque. Yeah, I don't know how roster spots work with 40 and who's on it and who's not. I'm curious who you guys might see. Like, who do you think might fill that role now in the bullpen? Is it finally Jaden Hill time? I mean, I'm ready for it.
I mean, I'm biased.
Yeah.
But I'm on record multiple times. I don't want them to call him up. Yeah. Sent Pint to Albuquerque and Rogers, but that Rogers was already no. So they sent 2 down?
Rogers was a couple days ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought so.
Option Rogers to Albuquerque on the 11th, and they outrighted Rogers to Albuquerque.
Oh,
okay. So he was okay. That makes sense. So Riley Pint is gone. Should it be Jaden Hill? Should it be Seth Halverson? Probably. I can see them calling up a Jeff Criswell or Dugan Darnell. Because Hill and Halverson just made their way up to Albuquerque 2 weeks ago. I don't even know if Hill has 5-6 innings under his belt. Halverson, same. Yeah. I think that's too fast for them.
Also remember who they're playing too. The Rockies are going on a pretty tough stretch here of games these next few days. And they're going to need someone to fill that spot here soon. So, Padres, is that the lineup you want to throw a guy who's only thrown a few innings, into?
Yeah. You're not doing that. I can see Jake Bird.
Oh yeah.
Jake Bird is probably on his way up. That would make the most sense with that. Especially given I would actually make the argument that these are probably a few of the games that the Rockies organization management, like I know they care about winning all games, but like I think they really care about winning the next couple of days of games because A, it's the Padres, and B, it's Todd Helton Day. Yeah. And like, that's the biggest games we're going to have. And then through the rest of the season, like the rest of the games are like, whatever, you're fighting for a draft pick at that point. But but these games coming up this weekend are going to be highly watched by a lot of fans and a lot of people from around baseball because of Todd Helton. I think they're going to probably want to put some of their best foots forward for what it is.
And that's a valid point. This is a Padres team that has been the best team in Major League Baseball, 19-4 since the All-Star break. The second team, the Diamondbacks. And so the Rockies had the Diamondbacks on the ropes twice in 2 nights. I know yesterday's ball game got away from them, but I was impressed with what I saw. Shout out to Blaylock and Gomber for shoving on both of those. But
did you guys see that Jordan Beck catch out in left field yesterday? That was sick. And followed up by the Shiviji, like behind the back little comebacker at the mound.
Yeah.
A nice little bright spot.
Yeah, there's always a bright spot or two that you can take from a game, right? We can forget that first inning real quick. But that's very true. I didn't read this. I'm just starting to read it. Serious question. Will Bud Black be manager in 25 or 26? When are they ready to compete? Is he the right manager for where this team is headed? I'll answer that first. I do not think Bud Black is the right manager for this team right now where it's at. Bud Black, he is a great guy. Was able to sit with him that one day, and he seems like a great baseball guy, a great dude to be around and all that. I just don't know if the mentality, kind of all the stuff that we're talking about, he loves his veterans. I don't think he's the right guy to develop and make a team of young cats ready to go in the next year or two. He hasn't shown me that he can do it over the last few years since his 2018 run where he was loaded with like veterans and was able to get the most out of those guys, where it doesn't quite seem that's part of his strong suit, so to speak, as of now.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. I also have no real issues with Bud Black, from a baseball standpoint as a person. Like he seems like he would be a good manager of a team that I think is in a playoff contending spot already from a roster standpoint. But when you're building something, you have to look at the style of management, and the style of team that you're building. So if you're going to be relying on guys like Doyle, Tovar, a future, Condon or Tolia, or just an entire roster of young players, I think you need a manager that has that exact same mentality of the future is here. And that's what we need to put our entire stock into, even if it doesn't win us games at first, because these guys need some reps. And Bud Black hasn't shown me that either. So, yeah, I can second what you just said.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. And so I'll kind of answer Cornhusker Fever's question, who is the right manager? I believe it's going to be Schaefer, the current Rockies third base coach and infield coach. You look at the Rockies outside of Doyle. All of their best players are on the infield, and he has also worked his way through the system, turning around a couple Rockies affiliates in the past. I think he's the right guy for the youth movement, and he's pretty young himself. So if he finds some success, he could be the next Rockies manager for a long time.
But do we see the Rockies, knowing the Rockies front office, do we see them going with a kind of no-name, smaller manager that's still trying to prove himself, or do we see them trying to sign someone who's going to sell tickets like they did with Chris Bryant?
I think they do it because he's in-house.
Yeah, they're going in-house. Yep.
That's what I'd assume. I also think the silence with Bud Black's contract negotiations, as Rhino mentioned, his contract is up at the end of the year. It's kind of eerie right now. You would have thought by at some point there'd be an article or something leak about
something more by now.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Yeah, Tony Walters.
Oh,
just throwing it out there.
That'd be a fun one.
He was added to the system. He's working down, I think, in the complex, doing some stuff down there. Just saying, maybe. Never know. I do think it's going to be in the house. I think it would be Schaefer. I don't think they go out of house. Call up Schaefer. Bring our guy Pacheco up. Another in-house kind of thing, but he's been doing pretty well down in the PCL, hitting coach and that kind of stuff. So I can see that. My choice is Kai Carrera, who lives in off-season in Fort Collins. No idea who
Didn't
that
know
is.
That.
It's like his uncle or something.
Right. Right now, is that your papa? Who's that guy? But I mean, I don't even know where we were at before all that, but I think there's a lot. I don't even know. I'm not even going to recap it. So let's end it. I was thinking 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Here we are at 53 minutes. So let's end it with this. I lost my question. I had it. Okay.
That's what happens when there's three of us on the pod here today.
Yeah. No James.
Yeah, no James. No James is messing me up. All right, predictions. Make your predictions. What's your hot take? I have no idea if we were right or wrong. I was right. Suck it, Noah. Suck it, James.
Yeah, I know.
I got the 20 home runs right. So
I have not won one yet. So this is
you're
bad.
terrible on all this.
Yeah, this is bad. But Padres series prediction. I think that the Rockies, I think they win the series and they kind of settle the Padres. They've kind of owned San Diego for the past 2 years, which has been awesome because obviously San Diego is a competing team and the Rockies haven't been. I think the Rockies take the series 2-1. They probably lose on Sunday after the emotional night of Saturday with Helton night. And bold prediction, let's have Blaylock go out there and shove 6 more innings. That's my.
I'm on that. I'm all over that. Mine has to be, I'm going to make one prediction, and it's that the Rockies will have a walk-off win on Saturday for Todd Helton night. Why? Okay. Because since I have come and started covering the Rockies, not saying I'm a good luck charm or anything, but in every single home series, the Rockies have won in a historic or walk-off fashion in at least one of the games. They had their 20-run win. They had their 12-inning walk-off. They had their 7-run comeback.
Yeah,
I think they're going to add another a little notch to that exciting, historic season, seasonal win that we'll see this weekend.
There you go.
Let's make it a 16-16 game going into the ninth, and the walk-off is the 17th.
Oh God!
Let's get absolutely Coors with it.
16-16. I am all for that, man. That's good. That's
What
good.
a day that would be.
That would be insane.
That would be. I'll just piggyback off yours, Noah. Give me the Blaylock shoving. I want to see how his stuff works at altitude because he's got that big hammer, that 12.6. So it'll be interesting to see how he messes with that. We've seen some success with Gomber every once in a while, but Blaylock.
I'm surprised that you didn't decide to go like Drew Romo first career bomb or something like that, man.
No, I don't do that. I don't.
Oh, okay.
No, I've never done that.
He's gonna pan to the shot of his parents celebrating in the stands, that kind of thing.
With BSB shirts on. That'd be
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. There you go. There you go.
I mean,
Noah crying in the press box. It worked.
This is the end of my summer. This is
My
awesome.
last day.
Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, that happened.
His little Todd Helton bobblehead.
Yeah.
Just living it the best out there. That'd be fun. Christian, thank you for hanging out. Go ahead and do your plugs.
Hey, it's always a pleasure. You can find me on Twitter at CJJ Saez, Saez, and on my podcast at DNVR Rockies.
All right. Noah, plug.
At Noah Spyrick. There you go.
Right there. Yeah. Again, thank you for hanging out, Christian. This was fun. Sorry it took longer than we expected, but it was a good time talking baseball and doing all that. This is the banter, baby.
I can't complain. I will never complain about getting to talk Rockies baseball with you guys.
Absolutely not. All right, let's send it off. Go Rocks! Woo!
Thank you for watching and listening. Please check out our link tree for more content.